Welcome back to the Stepbrothers. I'm Wesley Clark here with Andrew Hayden. Finally, an in-person podcast.
Yeah, this is rare.
Rare. You're finally home from Wisconsin. I am home from DC, just a couple miles away. Yeah. But anyway, today, the big talk in college football is the 24-team playoff. Why they're proposing it, why it's not 16 teams. That's the main topic in discussion in college football. What are your kind of first opinions on it and just why it's blowing up right now here in the offseason?
Yeah, well, I think one, a big proponent of the kind of proposal of the 24-team playoff has been Tony Petitti and the Big Ten, especially after the Big Ten has been performing the way they have been. The Big Ten has a ton of leverage right now over the rest of college football. Has a very strong argument to be the best conference, and because of that, Tony Petitti wants as many Big Ten teams on a national stage as possible in the college football playoff, because ultimately that drives up revenue for the Big Ten and pushes that superior image over other conferences still.
Right. And if you're looking through just the lens of the conference,
sure.
What does a 24 team, how does it benefit the conference? Well, you would have 4 locks. The Big Ten initially, when this first was proposed, the Big Ten was the only conference that initiated it. The other conference, ACC, Big 12, they didn't agree with the Big Ten because they were going to get 3 locks. Right. The SEC and the Big Ten would have got 4. So they didn't want to sign a document that said we are less.
Understandable.
So they were going to take their chances. I mean, we saw this year that once again they struggled.
Right.
Both of them. I mean, we saw. I mean, I guess Miami was able to get it, but Duke won the ACC. It just showed the strength of the ACC. But that is what. But now all of a sudden, after this season, now those conferences, maybe because it's money, want a 3-lock system for themselves.
Right. Well, even for the Big 12 and the ACC, getting 3 automatic bids is more than getting 1. But to your point, another reason that the Big Ten, I think, what's the SEC commissioner's name? Greg Sankey. I think he's been on board with the 24-team playoff now. I know it was Tony Petitti who really kind of pushed the envelope on that. But SEC coaches have been all for it. It gives you the opportunity to create that system where you are now like officially put on a higher tier than the other 2 power conferences. Because right now, in terms of the system, everyone kind of recognizes it as a power 2, but it doesn't really operate that way. And by having a 24-team playoff, where I know the system for which that would exist is not set in stone, but it'd be more automatic bids for the Big Ten and SEC than the Big 12 and ACC. Now you are officially putting it on paper that those 2 conferences are superior in the sport.
Right. And I think that when you look at the viewership, the ACC had the least amount of viewership just within the conference championship game when Duke won against UVA versus the Big 12, and obviously the SEC and Big 10 make a much money from their championship games just because the name brand itself. I think that the ACC and the Big 12, specifically them, realized, and if I looked in the mirror after the season, saying not only are we a lesser conference, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because they had Miami went to the national championship, they will make more money. For having 3 teams in the championship. In fact, they would make more money if they went to the 24 playoff and just completely skipped their conference championship game. And I think that's what they have finally realized in the Big Ten and SEC. That is not the same case for them. In fact, they'd lose money if they didn't play those games.
It doesn't even matter if the conferences think that the lower tier, or I don't want to say lower tier, but like if an 8-4 team makes the playoff from the Big Ten, right? Let's say Minnesota goes 8-4, makes the playoff. It's not like that serves the Big Ten because they think Minnesota is going to go on some run or win a bunch of games, but just the fact that them being there and having that recognition, all the Big Ten logos you get to put next to the college football playoff advertising and things like that, that's serves the conference, whereas having Minnesota in the Pinstripe Bowl or Duke's Mayo Bowl does not. So it doesn't even matter if these conferences like the Big 12 and ACC. I'm sure you're right. They recognize that there is kind of a power dynamic between those two conferences versus the Big 10 and the SEC. But they're just trying to get as many teams in the dance as possible.
When you look at the bowl games, and this has happened just in our lifetime, when we grew up watching bowl games, the teams would have successful seasons just winning the Alamo Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden you win the Alamo Bowl and you're your second string quarterback who's playing because the starters are transferring or they are going to the NFL. So if you expand the playoff, that will, I mean, you're still going to have a ton of play. I mean, there's so many bowl games. You're talking about the teams that play in the Alamo Bowl and the Citrus Bowl and the Holiday Bowl are going to make the playoffs and are able to have some sense of accomplishment within the program, especially if they make it once every 8 years, and able to hang a banner in their athletic department.
Right.
So that's why, so obviously the inclusion of teams, we've seen that with just a 12-team playoffs. So this year with JMU and Tulane making it. But when you look at viewership alone, 4 million people watched JMU in Oregon. So how much is that really doing for college football?
Right.
If you're expanding. So if 24 teams made the playoff, then you're probably looking at the first round games. 2 million people would watch it.
Yeah. And I do see that as a potential pro for a group of 6 teams, like JMU and Tulane from this past year. It used to be an accomplishment to make a New Year's Six Bowl. That's what every group of 6 team wanted to do. Used to go and win, try to win whatever bowl game they get placed into. But now with the format, bowl season's already very, the importance of it is already very diminished. So now you want to make that appearance, right? It's like a 16 seed making March Madness, right? They want to win their conference to do that. It's whatever happens beyond that point is irrelevant for most of those teams. But they want to have the opportunity to do that, and that's how they can define success. I think that is a pro for some of those teams that wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise. But in those power conferences, when you think about some of the teams that would be included, like Houston last year, Michigan last year would have been in a 2014 playoff, which was horrifying to think about because that team was awful, and I didn't want to watch them play another game under Sherrone Moore. That I think is a drawback of the 2014 playoff, and we'll get into that later of why that kind of devalues the seasons of those power conference teams.
Now the thing is, you watch Michigan versus Texas, and Texas won that by how 20 points?
14, yeah.
Wasn't a great game for Michigan in itself. You're still gonna play those games, so why not make it somewhat meaningful? And maybe you have a Cinderella, maybe Michigan, maybe Bryce Underwood goes off, or maybe Arch Manning. We saw him down the season actually be competitive in his games. What if Michigan had a run? And then one of the reasons why they didn't make the playoff is because they lost to Ohio State to start the season. So, and that's a whole nother topic of now schools like IU, a perfect example, in fact, play FCS schools so they can go 11-1 or go undefeated in the regular season, have an easy spot, an automatic bid in the playoffs. So because the system is allowing this, that is why you could propose a 24-team playoff, because if Ohio State loses week 2 against Texas, I don't have to worry about it because you can beat Michigan at home, you can beat Indiana, you can beat Oregon. Maybe you lose to the Michigan or Oregon, but you lose 2 games and you're still in. You have nothing to worry about. That's what happened, and that's what happened in Texas, and it cost them because the playoff wasn't 24 teams.
So are you arguing that they should?
I'm arguing. I'm not. I'm just saying that's suggesting why they would be
right. That's a viewpoint, and that's a fair one.
Because look at it. Ohio State, and Alabama just agreed that they will be playing their home matchup in 2020, 2029 and 2030.
Yeah.
So, but why is Ohio State doing that? Why is Alabama doing it? Michigan, Oklahoma are playing each other. So why these you could say 1%ers are playing these games to help the entire sport. Essentially, these schools make a lot more money. Ohio State would have made $250 million by itself if it just went off their TV deals instead of made 90. So there's not as much incentive to even be in the conference to, if you didn't expand it to 24 teams. That at least that's one of the reasons why the Big Ten would propose it, because Ohio State, even Michigan and Oregon, and maybe even USC the incentive is not there as much because they're not making as much money.
No. Yeah, especially with some of the changes, like without the conference championship games, and that incentive goes even farther out the window. So yeah, I don't know, that's why it's being proposed. Obviously, revenue plays a large portion of that as well. ESPN is going to push the college football playoff because they have rights to the college football playoff, and that's just capitalism for you. It makes sense. You can't hate them for it, really. But yeah, I will say, when you talk about Texas, I know that was a big thing with strength of schedule, and if they go 10-2 and don't lose to Ohio State, but they have that win over Texas A&M, do they get in? Maybe. I don't think that's an issue as much with the format of the playoff. I think that's just an issue with the way that the selection committee operates, and I think that's a completely different issue. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there was more issues with. Now, I don't think Texas was very good.
They weren't, but they were a lot better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning.
Now, it's almost like it was a chain of events that started with the ACC and how their championship game went down. Because if UVA makes it, then Notre Dame, I would possibly have made it, maybe even Texas, instead of JMU getting in, because they needed, they needed another conference winner, and that's why that happened. But it was just a chain of events, and if you're going to argue with the fact that they could expand the playoffs, then schools like Texas, and that in this specific scenario, you don't have to worry about losing to the number one team in the country at the time.
Right.
So, I mean, there's going to be pros and cons. We'll get into why they should not expand the 24 teams. Another reason why this is being proposed is because schools like Kansas State and Louisville didn't play in the bowl games.
Right.
Notre Dame took the ball and went home after they weren't put in the playoff.
Right. Because
they were playing the Pop-Tart Bowl. I mean, I get it to some degree, but at the same time, it's not good for the sport, and they should have played.
No.
So
yeah, it's not good for the sport, obviously. But with the way bowl season has been, like I said, its importance has already been diminished. I guess the thought process is try to turn some of those games into playoff games so you can restore some of that importance. But I think that just sends us further down the path that we're already on. So,
and we'll talk about now why they shouldn't expand 24 teams. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think mostly for myself, because of an Ohio State fan, it's going to be a little bit more biased compared to why they were proposing it in a way. But I mean, you can go ahead and share your point of view on this one.
Yeah, first. I think the main thing is I think it devalues the regular season. I think going from 4 teams to 12 teams, that automatically will devalue some games in the regular season, right? That what was that? Ohio State playing Oregon in 2021, that changed potentially the outcome of their season because it was a 4-team playoff. You could go you're 11-0 and you're going into that last game of the season, right? Ohio State in 2023, and that knocks you out of the playoff. I think going from 4 to 12 was good because I think that kind of opened the door. I like devaluing each game of the regular season is not that. It sounds a lot worse than it is, but because when you only have 4 teams, it just doesn't allow a lot of teams to get in. But if you have 24 teams, you're just, teams could go. They might have 5 losable games in a season, right? Ohio State, even with their tough schedule this year, might have 5 losable games. You could win one of them and still sneak your way into the playoff. And then at that point, you're still a talented team that could possibly make a run. I think you're just destroying too much value in the regular season. Rivalry games will not mean nearly as much. Big out of conference games won't mean nearly as much. And I think that was a good change going from 4 to 12, because one loss I don't think should knock you out of.
And it didn't.
And it did.
At times, it 100%.
Yeah, and it should. I don't think it should, especially when you're playing tough out of conference games. It shouldn't knock you out of national title contention. But when you're pushing the envelope to say that a team with 4 losses can still compete for a national title, when it's only a 12-game season and you're losing a third of your games, I think that's just too far.
Now, what about? I mean, you're big into college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We see, Final Four runs. We've seen George Mason with VCU, Yola Chicago. You're talking about teams who, in the grand scheme of things, aren't very good against, the Michigans and the Kansas and the Michigan States. They have an opportunity to win the national championship.
Right.
So, why is it that? I'm probably going to agree with you. I'm just giving you kind of a question. Do you have an issue with that in college football, but you're okay with it in college basketball? Is because it's a tradition. You know what I mean? It's been there for so long.
That's not even my mindset. I don't like that they're expanding the first 4 to however many it is, 76 teams next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is, and this is one reason why an expansion could be good, is because a lot of the teams that make up March Madness bracket are automatic bids, right? They're teams from smaller conferences looking to play upset, looking to make a run. It's not like you just have a ton of power conference teams who are, that expanded bracket allows a team with not as good of a record or resume to sneak in. Like, because a lot of those teams there's more auto bids than not. I think that makes it a little bit different.
I mean, at the end of the day, and from a school perspective, like Ohio State's who's going to win national championships. When you look at basketball, I mean, we saw this year. Even last year, especially with Houston. Was it Houston, Florida? I mean, all 4 Final Four teams were number 1 seeds. What was it this year? Michigan was 1. Who they play in the national championship?
UConn was a 2.
UConn was a 2, but weren't the rest 1s?
Arizona was a 1, and what was the other one? Oh, Illinois was like a 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, those 4 teams are essentially blue bloods in college basketball.
Right. But I'll also say in FBS football, there's 134, 135 teams now with Delaware. In college basketball, there's 366 now, I think. So it's a little bit different, right? That the power conferences obviously are still involved in both, but there's so many mid-majors in college basketball that aren't in a potential college football playoff field, that I think that makes a difference between those.
At the end of the day, that the household names are still going to win the championship. But a school, I mean, even this year with Ohio State, with Bruce Thornton getting to the championship, that somehow felt good. And I think some of these schools want that. But the thing is, why they shouldn't expand to 24 teams? Because we have talked so many times throughout the last 6 months that this whole season, I mean, it's so late. When do we end it? Late January? I mean, it used to end
late January
10th. January, 6th. Like it, and now all of a sudden we're sniffing February.
We're into the second semester.
Exactly. And exactly. And we're almost in February, and this college football season is still dragging on when it starts in September. And I mean, I think it's agreed upon with the coaches that they want to end it in January.
Mm-hmm.
The 24 teams, if this was put into play, you would be getting rid of the conference championship games.
Right. Okay, let's talk about that. Because personally, I feel a lot of pride as a fan, and players absolutely feel pride in winning their conference. Coaches 100% feel pride in winning their conference. I would hate the idea of not having a conference championship game. I think winning the big, not every team's going to win the national championship, right? But more teams have the opportunity to play in that game and come away with a conference title.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I know you know you'd still have a conference champion, but it'd be decided by, there'd be more tiebreakers involved. And I like conference championship games. I still think it means a ton. I'm excited when Michigan wins them. I want Michigan to win it every year. I know you feel a similar way.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, about that.
When you compare, if you want to talk about comparing what that game will get replaced with, you're talking about, imagine you sit down, instead of Georgia, Alabama, which we got again this year, it would be Tulane, JMU. I mean, that's what essentially what the CFP wants to do, is they feel like they will make more money. I don't know how with the money that the Big Ten and the SEC was, but according to their calculations, I guess that's what's being shown. That's a huge blow to I mean, as much as Georgia and Alabama dominate, it's still enjoyable when those two teams
the
play.
Highest quality of the sport. That's what people want to watch.
In the SEC championship game. And any fan that says the players, they don't want to play in it because of injuries, then they're playing football. If you don't want to get hit, you go play flag. Like, they want to win these games.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at Alabama and you get to play Georgia after you just lost to them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Now, I think the next thing we're going to talk about money-wise with these powerhouses, right, was Ohio State, I mean, even Indiana this year, Michigan, and Oregon. The school themselves will not make as much money because they get rid of the conference championship games. Right. We talked about why it should be proposed. I specifically said, in the lens of the conference, it will make more money, but not for Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon, especially those four that brought in a ton of money for the schools themselves. I mean, right. I just mentioned earlier that Ohio State had lost a bunch of money for being in the Big Ten. So where's the incentive?
Right.
There's not. So, but you're gonna not even play in the conference championship game, and I mean, you're losing money there, and then that's exposure for the school. You're trying to compete for a Big Ten championship that you've been doing since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Tradition's lost as well.
Yeah.
And I think 24 teams. I mean, at this point, we saw the bracket. I posted on Instagram. I mean, you got Arizona, you got Houston in there. I mean, it's charity at that point.
Yeah. You also, I mean, you already talked about the lesser incentive of being in a conference, right? For Ohio State, all the money they're missing out on. You take the conference championship away, that just tanks even farther. Then there's really a lot less of an incentive to be in a conference. Also, just in terms of seeding, I think that's something people don't talk about a ton with the college football playoff. Like, that extra data point is important. For if you drop from the number one team, the number 4 in the college football playoff, or maybe you're a team that's sitting at number 10 that can work its way into a bye. That
they'll be guessing the seeds. I mean,
it'll be even. It'll be even less to go off of, and yeah, that ultimately affects the quality of the games that you get to see. So, more games is definitely not always better, even if it's more opportunities for some teams.
Right. I mean, we saw this year. I mean, the 2 seed in the playoff, for some reason, this in the 12 team has been challenging with the matchup that they get. We saw, because you have to play the 5 seed, who is usually probably going to be a conference champion
and coming off basically a bye.
Yeah, they come off a bye. I mean, Miami got to play A&M. You win that game. I mean, Ohio State literally had done that. They beat Tennessee, and they go to the Rose Bowl to play Oregon, who's undefeated, and smoke them.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, the buys were just challenging itself. Now, the 1 seed really has an easy path compared to the rest. I mean, Indiana got to play Alabama.
Yeah, well, that's how it should be. I mean, play the 8-9.
But and then what I'm saying is, so my point is, if we didn't have the Big Ten championship game, Indiana would have been the number 2 seed. Ohio State would have been 1. Much as that would have been great, because I would love to play Alabama. I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah.
Indiana's path to the championship game would have been tough. I mean, they could have lost to Miami, and they're very close in that national championship game. and so far. I mean,
Yeah.
Going into the playoff has just been tougher. So, like you said, it just the seeding they really would be guessing here. Now, you can make the case that there's extended playoff and more teams are getting involved. Well, then, even if you had 100 teams, there's still people getting missed out. Like it doesn't really get rid of that factor.
Right.
But what you're getting rid of is the legitimacy of the rankings.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back to when you talked about March Madness. Also, just because people look at March Madness like it's a perfect tournament, and I'm not saying I feel that way necessarily. It's still not a huge deal for a lot of teams to make March Madness. Like if you're getting in, I know it was special for Ohio State this year because they were on the bubble, or maybe not even on the bubble at all. They win some games late, but like a couple years ago when Duke made the tournament as a 5 seed, like you think they care about like, oh, we made the tournament.
They care about actually only being a 5 seed.
Yeah.
They care more about being a 5
So
seed.
that's what it would come down to. It makes it so that some of the higher level programs and brands are sure they might be in the field and more people might be included, but I think it just it continues to devalue the actual games that are being played.
I think that they're looking at this the wrong way, and I think that they think that the problem with college football is the playoff. I mean, there is so much more to worry about with the transfer portal and the money that's getting pushed out to players, which is fine, but the amount of money and the disparity of it is, to me, is a terrible system.
Yeah. There are bigger issues than what we're
if you stop the transfer portal or you make kids sit out after transferring a second time, then they stick to their bowl game. There can be a ladder to this, but trying to fix the playoff after the fans absolutely loved it the last 2 years with getting campus games, this is something that we hadn't had, campus playoff games. And I mean, in a sport where the only reason why this is blowing up, the college football is in the golden age, is because of campus games and because of, yes, ESPN and Fox are spending billions of dollars into this product. Well, it's because schools like Ohio State and Michigan have 100,000 fans there every single game. You have to spend the money, because it's there.
Yeah,
but we're looking at the problem in the wrong direction right now.
Right.
If you fix what's everything from the bottom, from the transfer portal, the money that's getting pushed out to schools that they're missing out on, then maybe we can talk about the 24 teams. But right now, the 12 teams, I mean, we saw Tulane and JMU make it. I mean, there is opportunity for teams to make it.
Yeah, and I think also people just look at expansion like it's been a huge no-brainer success. Like, has it? Do you remember a year ago after the first 12-team playoff, people were like questioning it, like after Boise State had a bye, they changed the seeding to straight seeding. Now things change, but they're still like 12-team playoff is still being worked out. There's, the whole Notre Dame situation is weird
for sure.
Yeah. And the seeding is going to change again next year to the automatic bid system. Like it seems 2 years into a playoff that's already triple the size of what we had before, we're trying to double it again. I think I don't think we've got enough of a sample size on what the expanded playoff actually means for the sport before we're trying to keep pushing that even farther.
Right. And you look at the whole Notre Dame situation, they bitched at the NCAA committee, the CFP committee, when in reality, it was actually the rules of the ACC that kicked them out. Yeah. Because the CFP, they have to have a certain amount of conference championship winners, and it's 5, right?
Yes.
So, and because Duke won and they had 8 wins in total, they weren't going to put them in, so they had to put JMU in. Now, if you go, this again going back to the ladder, the things that should be fixed before we go to 24 teams. We're just 2 years in. Go fix the ACC, then you don't have the problem with Notre Dame, and you don't have to give them an automatic bid every single year. But for some reason, that's right in play now after this year. So there's a lot more things to fix. And Joe Klatt, I mean, what he really hit on his most recent video when he talked about his 24 teams was the fans don't want this.
No.
They don't want 24 teams. They are in love with 12 teams. We just had it. Your school gets the opportunity. I mean, look at Penn State. Penn State was a drive away from going to the national championship after being the school that was on the hub. Notre Dame got the national championship again. I mean, I can go on. Boise State made the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things that you can hit on about teams getting opportunities. And for the 1% universities like Ohio State, Alabama, I mean, would you put Michigan in the 1%?
Historically, yeah.
Yeah, historically.
Not right now. Well, until 2026. K-Wit, baby.
24 teams would put Ohio State and Michigan in it every single year.
Yeah.
And we are against it. So that is actually saying something.
My bias is not worth it. Not worth it for the
right. I mean, Ohio State
of the sport.
Ohio State would be the only team that would have made the 12-team playoff every single year. And at some point, that's not going to happen. It could be this year with the schedule they have. And I still don't want it because if they don't make the 12 team, then I don't think they're good enough to be the team at the mountaintop at the end of the season.
Right.
So why do I want to watch them lose again with 24 teams? I mean, like you said, with Michigan.
Yeah, it's just what it means for the sport. If you're not good enough to make the 12-team playoff, then I don't feel bad for you that you're not given a chance to play for a national title. I mean, that's the way sports work. I don't know, when you dumb it down to something as simple as that. Even if it's my team, I don't want to watch a team that couldn't perform at the highest level in the regular season be given the same opportunity. And obviously it's not the same opportunity. Seeding still matters and there'll be more buys and things like that. But yeah, I agree.
It's not a delusion of the regular season when they went to 12 teams, because Notre Dame, the same season of them going to the championship game, they lost to Northern Illinois. I've seen Ohio State lose to Iowa and Purdue. They were a top 4 team in the country at the time, and they didn't make it because of that one game. They lost to Oklahoma, and then they were screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a delusion to the. It wasn't even. I don't even know how I would put it when the 4 teams was going on, and Michigan. If they played Alabama, I mean that's just this is your season. That's all the line in week 2.
And that is technically devaluing it when you go to 12 teams, but that's not a bad thing. Like, I think when a 14 playoff, the stakes were too high.
Could you make the case that's actually the opposite? But the regular season might be devalued, but the season itself is actually more valuable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. The some of those games that you're talking about might have, like that out of conference game, right? Let's say Michigan versus Oklahoma this past year in 2025. If that's a 4-team era, that game means more than it does in a 12-team era. But fast forward through the rest of the season, there's far more meaningful games in October and November because teams haven't been knocked out of contention already.
Right. I mean, when Oklahoma got smoked by Ohio State in Oklahoma, they were done. I mean, their season was over. Mm-hmm. They lost by like 22 points. So how does that feel the rest of the season? I mean, that's more demoralizing than
right.
We just maybe went on the road and lost in an SEC or Big Ten environment, but we still have these 8 games to play that we could still get a bye, or it could be a 6. I mean, Ohio State was a 7th seed and they won the championship game.
Yeah, right.
The season itself, I think, is more valuable now than ever.
It is, and it's more valuable for more teams. But you can only go so. That's not an infinite pot you can pull from. You can only make so many games valuable before all of a sudden none of them are valuable because you're getting in no matter what happens.
The more I talk about it, the more I realize how much I don't want the 24 teams. Like, honestly.
I've been thinking that this entire time, but I'm glad you're with me there.
I mean, I was gonna be with you the entire time. I mean, I do like the things I said about why it's being proposed, and I there's reasons why it's for it, and obviously inclusion is great, but they're at a peak right now. So if you devalue regular season, but your peak value of this entire season, including the playoff, that's right now. Mm-hmm. But then you're going to devalue the playoff teams. The playoff.
We just got it. We still don't really know how well the 12-team playoff is even going to work out. It's been 2 years.
The teams with buys are 1 and 8.
Yeah. Why don't we just keep working on the things that already need to be worked on? Let's work on the portal.
there's something
work on
wrong.
NIL. Let's work on the conference tiebreakers. We just are now going to 9 conference games for every power conference. I think things need to be worked out before we keep expanding the playoff at the end of the year.
I agree with you. I mean, that's where I'm going to end there. I mean, the whole 1 and 8 thing is a huge issue. I mean, like, again, the whole ladder system that I've been talking about, from the ACC fixing their tiebreakers to the transfer portal to maybe some salary caps. Maybe you can somehow close the gap between the bowl games and how they were to the playoff games and how they are right now, because players stay, or just anything. I mean, there's so much going on in college football that the whole 24 teams thing is irrelevant.
Right. And like you said, fans don't want it. And that's what makes college football great.
That's enough for me.
Is the fans. Yeah. But obviously the people making decisions don't. That's not the main proponent in what they think. I'm going to drop an idea that I had a little earlier today. I think we should just do 12 teams. Could even do 8 if you want. 8 or 12 teams, all what's the not automatic bids? There's a word for that.
At large.
Yeah, all at large bids. If a group of 5 team is in the top 12, great, put them in. Outside of that, just have a separate 6-team group of 6 playoff where every conference winner goes and plays in a playoff. Top 2 get buys, separate things. That's how I would go.
So it's complete separate. Wait, you're talking about like complete separate tournaments?
Yep, 2 tournaments.
So it's the at large,
which would be mostly Power 4, and then you get a group of 6 tournament with every conference winner, unless one of those winners is good enough to be in the top 12, and it would just be like the next best team in the.
Well, the thing is that the seeding is still random. I mean, Ohio State was a perfect example. They were the best team in the nation. They were at large, and they below everyone out to win the national championship game. So what happens in that situation? Because now it allowed teams to really show who they, like an expanded season, to really show who they were. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Not really. You lost me.
Like, if you have 4 teams, and we just talked about why we hate the 4 team.
Yeah, what do you mean? I'm not saying 4 teams.
Didn't you just say the buys and then a complete separate tournament? Oh, you're talking a complete separate tournament with a group of 6.
Yes, yeah, group of 6 separate tournament.
The thing is, who cares? I mean, I'll watch it.
But if you want to give them something to play, like the FCS teams aren't complaining that they don't get a shot to play in the FBS tournament because they have their own playoff.
Yeah, but they're in completely different. Not even D1 AA. Not even. I mean, that's.
I'm aware of where they are.
D2 is not going to care about. Oh, what if we compete at the FCS?
Okay, that was a bad point. But my point being, if you're good enough to be in the top 12, then you have earned the right to, okay, now I'm defining my success based on how I can compete nationally. But if you're not, then you're still included in a separate tournament where you get to play against the best other group of 16s. I think, going back to what you said earlier, I think there'd be more viewership for Tulane versus JMU than there would be JMU versus Oregon. Would there not be?
It depends the outcome of the game.
Yeah, but it would be a more competitive game. And I think the players and the coaches of group of 6 teams would want to play against other top group of 6 opponents rather than have the opportunity to get blown out.
In terms of viewership, I don't think that would be true. I mean, JMU was on the world stage of college football. They were playing Oregon. Not blue blood, but the Oregon. I mean, you go to Eugene. You're in a top 5 playoff environment. You think that some students are going to care that they played Tulane in the D1, group of 6 semifinal? No, I don't.
I think it'd be. I actually do think people would be more invested into that. Because you have a chance to win. You're still playing for something.
You have a chance to win, but the average fan is going to be appealed like JMU is on prime time, ESPN.
I guess.
Oregon, it's everywhere. I mean, you're gonna if you're advertising Oregon, you gotta advertise JMU. You know, they're on every single banner because they're playing in this game. This might be the one time they're in the CFP in 20 years, and they drew 4 million fans. So one, they failed that. So I would not agree right now that would draw that many fans. I mean, I think that I don't disagree with the idea. Maybe that would work.
It's an interesting thought exercise.
But I'm also under the impression that allowing one guaranteed group of 6 team, I'm completely fine with that. We had 7 more spots for the Power 4.
Yeah.
Get one. But I mean, we've talked about that before. We're going to do that later. But for this right now, the 24 teams is irrelevant into what's really going on in college football.
Yeah. Let's get the low-hanging fruit first. NIL, the insane team salaries, transfer portal, the way that the conferences operate, the seating, the committee itself, how the college football playoff actually values games before we just start changing the format entirely.
Right.
That's how
I think that some of the issues of the playoff is a byproduct of everything else going on in college football. But they're not starting there, and that's their issue.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I mean, it might take a while for this 24-team playoff. If the Big Ten and SEC do come to agreement, it will be officially put in place. They are the determining factors in this. It's kind of weird how it works, but it essentially is a Power 2 agreement going on between the Big Ten and SEC. So whatever goes between those two conferences will be put in play for the future of college football. But I mean, that's all I have.
That's all I got. Yeah.
So let us know what you think. I mean, we talked about pros and cons of the 24 team. Let us know in the comments. Go follow us on Twitter and TikTok. Down below, you can see our handles. I think it's interesting what's going on. They've talked about 16. We're at 12 right now, maybe 24, but a lot is in play just in general with college football, with transfer portal and expansion of playoffs.
Put them all in, all 136.
Yeah. Participation trophies for everybody.
Just play a 4-game regular season and then
100 and
just let everybody
138
duke it out.
Team bracket, double elimination.
I'm sure someone could figure that out, how that would
Possible.
work. Yeah, right. Figure it out. Drop it in the comments. Just like a JPEG of the potential 136 team bracket. Take a look at it.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.